Welcome to another episode of Your Extraordinary Growth podcast. I am your host, Michael Baczynski, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Reyna Hoerdeman, a women's health and fitness professional who enjoys helping women build their dream lives one daily wellness habit at a time. She has been a fitness and wellness professional for over 12 years with modality certifications in strength training, bara, and yoga, along with being certified in nutrition, gut health, and period cycles to help busy women 35 plus utilize nutrition, fitness, and accountability. If you're a busy woman who is ready to take the journey to build your happy and healthy lifestyle, she is your gal. And today we are going to take a peek behind the curtain of her amazing story. Welcome to the show, Reyna.
Well, thank you, Michael. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I love it. So let's start. Where are you located?
We are in Chicago, in Lincoln
Chicago.
Park.
So you're just north of where I'm at. I'm in Springfield, Illinois.
Nice.
There you go.
One of my very good friends, her family owns, I feel like it's, as we were previously talking about death, the largest, her family owns the largest funeral home there. So Staub Funeral Home. I don't know.
Yep. It's right there. Staub is on Fifth Avenue, runs right through downtown there. It's amazing in Springfield how many funeral homes there are, but it's because it's the county seat. There's absolutely nothing else around us until you get to like St. Louis. So so you started your business in Chicago 12 years ago. So it's 2023. So we're talking right around 2011. Right?
So to be clear, I have probably been in this industry since around that time.
Mm-hmm.
My studio in itself is a baby. It just hit 5 years.
5 years. Congratulations.
5 years this year. Yeah,
that's
thank
huge. You. Yeah, they say that it's like 3%. What is it? 20% of all businesses, only 20% of all businesses make it to 3 years. And then like 25% of those, I'm going to mess up the statistics, but it's something like a quarter of those make it past 5. And then only like 10% of those make it to 10 years. It's amazing statistic on businesses, and fitness is a very, very difficult industry to compete in. So congratulations for hitting your 5 years. So so basically you were in it for like around 7 years before you decided to go out on your own. So what was it that made you take that leap of working 90 hours a week so you didn't have to work 40?
Right. So interestingly enough, I have another business. I have other things that I do as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just teaching in group fitness and I enjoyed it. It was something that honestly like gave me mental headspace, oddly enough. And I love this industry because to me, and I joke, but I'm like, when people are like, oh, well, this is how much this costs. I'm like, it's legitimately an investment. Like when you invest into your health and wellness, you get back tenfold. So it's just like, going to the stock market, but instead of money or like, and you're getting dividends in your health and your life. I started subbing. So I'm not the original, like I'm not the founder of the studio that I own. I'm actually the third owner. And so the studio actually began in around the time that you were bringing up. There is an original founder, and then she like wanted to move. She was just like, all right, I need to move. And so I think she just kind of sold it to people that were like, here, this is, I don't know if it was the highest bidder or what it was, but they like took it over. And then, as you stated earlier, it is a very difficult industry. It's a very saturated industry, especially in Chicago. And I think they took it over as like a side hustle and not knowing that it's not a side hustle. At all, by any means. And so they ended up both getting pregnant at the same time. I was subbing there because of my friend that actually I had mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And she taught there. And so, she came to me and she was like, well, you have this marketing background and you're into health and wellness. And we thought maybe you'd be interested in buying the studio. And at first I was just like, I don't know about this. And also what they were asking for it, like the
Mhm.
studio was completely failing
Mm.
when we had at the end when we had like gone to purchase it. Like I saw the numbers, I saw the P&L statement. I also was like privy to like more information. And so we negotiated. I had a business partner too.
Mm.
So until 2019. So we started in 2018, and like in 2019 I bought him out, and then yeah, there's more information to tell. But I honestly just wanted I was like, okay, well, this seems like it's, meant for me. Like this is something
Mhm.
that needs to happen, and this will be a great chance because it's honestly, if I were to tell people when to purchase a studio, it's buy it from somebody that doesn't want to do it anymore,
Mhm.
because you'll be able to negotiate that price because somebody just wants out of it, right?
Mhm.
Like they're like, okay, as long as I can get something in return for the 90 million hours I worked, I feel like that's enough to them at some point.
Right, right.
So that was kind of what we had. I mean, they were both pregnant. Neither one of them ever even taught there, so they were just hiring and trying to find people to like fill slots, and it was more or less of like a divine like happenstance.
Mhm.
And yeah, then I was like, let's do it. I had just purchased property, like no joke, the year before. But I was just like, I don't know, going through things and the sense of wanting to just elevate everything that I was doing. And
Mhm.
it's like, let's go. And
Right.
so we bought the studio, and the rest is history. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
There's a lot
It's
in
so funny because you remind me of a I bought a cafe back in the 2000 teens,
yeah.
and me and a partner went in, and it was kind of a side hustle for both of us. I had a creative agency, and he had an accounting firm.
Mhm.
And we're like, okay, well, you'll do the money, I'll do the marketing, we'll have baristas, and this thing will just kind of run on its own. And we were buying it from who we thought was a friend,
Mhm.
and we got an okay deal on it. I mean, he said he was leaving town the whole 9 yards, but we only had that thing for 365 days to the day between the
Wow.
time we signed for it to the time we signed off from it.
What did you guys end up doing? Did you sell it?
Yeah, we sold it to somebody who then ended up we owner financed, and
Okay.
that ended up she ended up being too young, and yeah, lawyer's daughter type of thing. But he was a or he is he's still around, a bankruptcy lawyer. So when it
Mhm.
came time to be like, well, your daughter owes a bunch of money here to us, and she's not paying her bills and all these other things, and so it ended up being a complete flop for us. But he's like, well, we'll just have her, you know, file bankruptcy. That's what I do. And I was just like, oh my gosh, so we're screwed.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's a wow.
But yeah, it was a fun job. But the thing that I pick up as the partnership, because you said that you had a partner,
Mhm.
sounds like that went away. So
It
tell
did.
me a little bit about that, because I think that a lot of people, they think about partnerships and diluting or divesting their risk and the responsibility there. Tell us, because that was only a couple of years that you had that partner. So tell us a little bit about that story if you don't mind. You don't have to talk
Yeah, of
about
course.
names or anything like that, but
Oh no, it's
yeah,
fine. I feel like in the podcast I've done, it's great from a learning perspective. So, and
yeah.
I was honestly fine with it like as soon as it went through. Like I was like, okay. Um it was a year, it was a little over a year and a half, because I remember, I think it was like July. I don't remember the exact date, but it was like toward the end in
Hmm.
2019 when we just went our, separate ways, and I bought him out of it. Um, we at the time, he has sure he probably still has a digital agency, and like my company was specifically social media. So
Mhm.
he was like everything else, and we were specifically social media. So we had done, excuse me, a lot of work together.
Mhm.
And it was good in the sense of like I would send him business and, I got things like he did a lot of like SEO and different things. So like we worked well in that frame together. And so we thought we could do this together. And
Mhm.
there are two reasons why they say that you should have a business partner. One is money, and
Mhm.
the other is, that they have the interests or like compatible interests in the sense of, or skill sets, excuse me, that they can actually, bring forward things that you cannot.
Mhm.
And at the time, that was very much like it was very much the latter. So yes, we
Mhm.
obviously like went in and paid, we were 50-50, which also is very difficult because when somebody doesn't own more, like it's
Mhm.
not as easily accessible to, get out I guess in said terms. Because if somebody wants to, fight with you or whatever, then you got to go through all that because I didn't own 51% and him 49%. So he did a lot of the back end marketing, like our website, SEO, those
Mhm.
sorts of things. And the thing is at the end of the day, he just really cared about what he was doing, and that's
Mhm.
fine. In his digital company, it's just that's something we probably, I asked him all the questions, why do you want to be in business? Why do you want to do this with me? What all the questions that I thought I should ask. But as we know, that doesn't necessarily matter. People can tell you whatever they want to tell you.
Mhm.
And he was great at doing that. But I would be working just and like tirelessly, endlessly, and ask for some help. And it would be, like World War III. And that's not exactly what anyone wants when it comes to any sort of partnership. You want somebody that's going to support you. And even if it's like, okay, well, we need to learn how to do this, or
Mhm.
like, okay, this let's divide this and conquer, or, I
Mhm.
mean, it's never going to be 50-50, even though
Mhm.
like that's what we owned.
Mhm.
I just don't see like in any partnership,
Mhm.
whatever it may be, you're never like 50-50, right?
Mhm.
Like there's consistently some different aspect of it. And
Even only if a couple of percentiles difference.
yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
right.
And my thought process is, okay, we need to do what we need to do in order to like move
Mhm.
move it forward. Like we just
Mhm.
need to keep moving forward, we need to keep evolving, we need to
Mhm.
learn. And I was open to like of course now like consulting and mentorship because I had
Mhm.
never run a fitness studio before. It doesn't matter that I taught at them,
Oh,
I
yeah.
had never run one, and
Right.
totally totally different ball game.
Mhm.
And that wasn't something that he was open to. He wanted to just kind of get as much, we'll say, complimentary information as possible. And it's okay for a certain amount of time, but you can only like read so many books and,
Mhm.
do so much research until like people deserve to be paid for
Mhm.
consulting services, and like
Sure.
you're shrinking time. And that was something that I wanted to do. And that was something that, he was like, no, we can do this. I mean, he had his at the time, like fiance doing like putting together our like back end CRM without like asking me anything. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, it's one thing to like we had this discussion and I understand why you're doing it, but like she would end up and she would just like showing up in meetings, and I'm like, this is very like that, just the boundaries were not there
Right,
either,
right.
and so I started
Like
to see
bigger
a
picture.
pattern of this.
Mhm.
And it also went to a very like ugly place, unfortunately. Like there
Mm.
was a lot of emotional abuse on that side of things, like that my instructors, like I mean, one point I remember we were in the instructor lounge and he was like screaming. And one of my instructors, who's a dear friend of mine, is like, so I'm, in another room where the door is closed, where there's loud music, and I'm like, at talking loudly, and we can still hear you. Like,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah.
I just think when you think about having a partner, do you ever really know how someone is just because they're good in like one facet of life doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean that they're going to be great in another facet? And
Mm.
I think that that's what, like somebody could be a great friend, right? But like
Yeah.
a horrible lover. And like that's what it is. Like
It is what it is.
exactly. And
Mhm.
so I would just say make sure that like you dot your i's, you cross your t's, you have all the legal documents in place, you have an exit strategy, so that, because luckily I had a really really amazing attorney. He's awesome. Like he made it so much better than it could have been. Like he was like, we're
Mm.
not going to court, this is not happening. He's like, give me your, he asked me like 3 questions. It was like, what's your top line? What's your bottom line? Like,
Mhm.
it was like 3 questions. I'm not even kidding
Mhm.
you. And he's like, this is what's going to happen. This is how I'm going to do this. We're going to get to the bottom of this. And at the
Right.
time, all my business partner did was like threaten me and tell me like, I have this large firm in Chicago and, I'm going to get, everything that I want. And like, oh
Oh my
yeah, he sent
gosh.
out an email to all my instructors.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
oh yeah, it
Toxic.
was like,
It's just toxic.
oh, horrifying. It's like,
Yeah.
what people watch on like reality shows, except it was like my actual life, I'm like,
Oh my
this is
gosh.
why I don't watch reality. I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
need that. I'm good. Thank you.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's
Great
it
for
is a
any market though.
marriage, and I think that a lot of times that people don't date long enough,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And unfortunately, in a lot of these, like I got really lucky that my partner and I, we differed in some aspects. Like when we went to, during the exit, it's like, how much did we want to go after this person, right? Did we
Yeah.
want to levy her future earnings to, because she basically just kind of left the business and didn't uphold her end of the bargain. And yeah, she was young, but she also had a very educated and successful lawyer, father who was a lawyer as well,
Hmm.
and it's just like, and at some point you're like, okay, so at what point are we, you know, really just helping, not helping her by not holding her accountable type of thing. And at one point he was just like, it's sunk costs. Let's just go. And I eventually came to that conclusion too. But
Yeah.
through the thick of it, I mean, both of us were dealing with like baristas not showing up. And so we'd have to stop what we were doing in our business and then go hawk coffee, right? And because we were trying to be owners, not owner operators. This is a
Hmm.
side thing. This is a diversification of our income type of thing,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And we had people stealing food, stealing drinks, giving away drinks, the whole 9 yards, just not doing their
Jeez.
jobs. And then just not showing up for their job sometimes too. And I'm sitting there, well, we're hawking, a cup of coffee that's making us a couple bucks a pop. And when it's all said and done, this, is not conducive to what we charge per hour when we're doing what we actually do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and so but we both stood up to it. We both understood our responsibilities. We both, you know, for better for worse, went through the thick of it. So I think that, I got blessed with that. I have had other
Yeah.
partners who stuck me with $75,000 bills and yeah, and failing businesses and those types of things as well. And so yeah, it's always interesting. Partnerships are really tough. But now you have your own business. It's
Hmm.
yours. 4
Hmm.
years later,
Hmm.
where do you see yourself in the next 5 years with your business?
That's a great question. So we just re-signed a lease for 3 years.
There you go. So at least
um,
3 years. Where are you going to see yourself in
yeah,
3 years?
right. I mean, so I have specific goals for the business that like I need to reach in order to like continuously evolve.
Mhm.
People ask like, do you want a franchise? and all these separate things. So right, it's like, let's go big or go
Yeah,
home.
right.
Um,
Let's just make this one
also,
really big first.
yes. So yes, to your point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great segue. So my goal is to, where you talked about owner operator and just like owner is to be the owner. As
Mhm,
much as I love the business,
mhm,
I really do. It's what I'm so passionate about. So that's what can also get us into trouble, right?
mhm,
Because I am passionate about it. And
mhm,
I have other fellow business owners that are clients, and so we get to kind of talk about this as well. But I do have a date scheduled to where I will no longer like be doing any sort of training. I'm
mm,
also like, I have a salesperson that, you know, like our team is small,
mhm,
but to run $1 million gym, you really only need like 3 to 4 people. You don't,
mhm,
it's very different in the sense of different, right? Like different industries.
mhm.
Before I had like 11 trainers and they
Wow.
were all part-time. And
Right.
now it's just like, nope, I just need like a manager, a lead trainer, potentially a part-time trainer, and then like a salesperson. And
Mhm.
that's the
Yeah,
operational
yeah.
aspect of it,
Mhm, mhm,
beyond like I have a VA, like I have an assistant,
mhm,
and that's really the kind of whole thing. So I'm in the process actually of like pulling myself off of everything. So
mhm.
transferring into like manager owner and then lead trainer. So that's
Mm.
legitimately in the works right now because it would be a little bit different, but we'll get to that in a second. So for me, that's the next like where I see like my current goal as to what I'm working on. I honestly think about it, and when I think 5-year term, it's definitely a difficult thing to think 5 years from now because of wanting to focus on like the yearly goals. And
Mhm.
then for me, I honestly think that like we do some remote training, and because we're
Mm.
so good at helping women, whether they're in front of us or if
Mhm.
they're, whether they live thousands of miles away. I would really love to be able to just continuously help women everywhere, no matter the location. So
Sweet.
I've started dipping my toes into that. We have about like 12 remote clients currently, and I would
Mhm,
love to build that aspect out of it and, run things more from like afar,
mhm.
versus be more in the, owner operator stage, which is
Yes. Working
current.
on your business, not in your business. I love it.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
last question I have for you,
Mhm.
and we're gonna usually say 10 years, but it's 5 years is how long you've had this. And I want to hear what would if you had the opportunity to talk to yourself 5 years ago, knowing what you know today, what would you tell that self?
Um, I would probably tell her do more research, because you don't like if you don't like the whole fail to plan to fail aspect.
Mhm.
But also I would still concurrently say, like, dot your I's and cross your T's. So, like, do a
Mm.
little bit more research, find out more about your industry, find
Mm.
out more about maybe potentially like partnerships and things of that nature.
Mhm.
But also still like take those leaps and take those risks. Like
Mhm.
I wouldn't change anything by any means. I think just having more um, education and more knowledge is consistently going to be super helpful, right?
Mhm.
And being an entrepreneur, we have that risk, we have that
Mhm.
risk aversion in many cases. So it is great to be humbled and to learn and to know, like, okay, well, maybe go like stage for somebody, and you know how they say that in restaurants, right? Like go
Mhm.
to a business owner and go to a fitness owner and be like, can I just follow you around for
Mhm.
like 2 months, and like I'll
Mhm.
do whatever you want me to do?
Mhm.
Because I think you can really get the ins and outs of something when you're just like, here, I'll do whatever you need me to do, right? Like that's
Mm.
one of when I joined, so I have a few different consulting companies that I've used, but I did join Gym Launch when the Hermosis were still there.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that Alex talks about that he did in order to understand the fitness industry was
Mhm.
like, I just worked. And even now the consulting company that I work, they both ended up working for a guy, so the same guy, oddly
Mhm.
enough.
Mhm.
And they just worked under him and did
Mhm.
as much work for free, because
Mhm.
think about how much you can learn
Mhm.
if you just go into an industry and you're like, look, I'm just going to work, like, this is what I'm going to do. I want to be your apprentice. I want to learn everything that you do.
Mhm.
That would have been a cool situation because I would have
Mhm.
learned so much about what I'm doing, now. And I
Mhm.
would have had that. And it would have been just a really great learning experience, I feel. So
Yes.
that's what
Love
I
it.
would have told myself. But, hindsight
That's
is
all good.
2020, I guess.
Well, I appreciate your introspection, and I think that the audience can take a lot from the stories you told today. And then for that, I appreciate you taking the time
Yeah.
to talk with us here at Your Extraordinary Growth. And I hope you all the best and moving forward. And I hope you do hit that goal of working on your business and not in your business. I think that's a great goal to go get from there.
Yeah.
For all of our listeners, if you've enjoyed the show, please make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And also help us out and give us a review on the show so other people can see that you had enjoyed it as well, to help us get more listeners and share more of these stories. And until next time, stay extraordinary.